So, with an academic career that spans over 28 years, our next speaker, Dr. Ramesh, has been serving as the Dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science at California State University, Northridge, since 2006. Prior to joining CSUN, he was Professor of Electrical and Electronic Engineering at California State University, Sacramento. Here he was also serving as the department chair from 1994 to 2006. At CSUN, he leads the nationally recognized AIMS program that supports over 180 underrepresented students in engineering and computer science. Ramesh serves on the board of IEEE Educational Activities and ABET. He has been elected to serve as the IEEE HKN President-elect for 2015 through 2016 and chairs the 2014 IEEE EAB Pre-University Coordinating Committee, leading signature programs such as TISP, which we'll hear about a little bit later. It's the Teacher in Service Program, and EPICS, Engineering Projects in Community Service in IEEE. Dr. Ramesh is an IEEE Fellow who has been recognized for his contributions to entrepreneurship and engineering education. Dr. Ramesh received the BE Honours degree from the University of Madras, India in 1981, and the MSCE and PhD degrees from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale in 1983 and 1986 respectively. So please welcome Dr. Ramesh, who will be talking to us on globalization of engineering.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. A warm Ottawa morning to all of you. I come from California, specifically Los Angeles, and I got in about 2 a.m. this morning. And you know, the headlines in Los Angeles and California is all about water, right? And I looked outside the window this morning on the cab driving here to the National Arts Center. What a beautiful city, and so much green. I hardly see that in California. So the thought occurred to me, you know, I'm here at a humanitarian technology conference. Perhaps we could trade some of the sunshine for water. Perhaps. In any event, it's a great pleasure to be here today. Maria, thank you very much for the very gracious introduction. Professor Ferial Havari, thank you. It's your invitation that brought me here. And as things go, you know, you commit to things, and this is very close to my heart, humanitarian technology, because obviously, as an electrical engineer, you're looking at products and processes to help people around the world. I figured out that I'd spend a couple of days in Ottawa and really have a good experience meeting, interacting with everyone at the conference. Well, lo and behold, there were 2 events that were bookended. Yesterday we had our annual staff awards at the university, and my assistant was receiving the top staff award, so I could not possibly miss that. And tomorrow I've got a senior in high school who's graduating from high school, so therefore it's going to be a very, very quick trip. So that's it. It's a great pleasure to be here today, and I hope to share with you some ideas that I have on globalization and engineering. I think many of these are probably ones that a number of you here are already working on in your capacities as a student, as a professional, as an educator. Just a show of hands, how many of the audience are in academia? Just a show of hands. Wonderful. Industry? Very good. And students? Awesome. So we've got, again, we've got this. So this is going to be a very, very exciting event, I believe. I understand it's the second year that you're doing the Humanitarian Technology Conference. And I've got a few ideas here to share with you, both to expand your vision of what humanitarian technology is all about, and also think about how we can serve, you know, different populations around the world. And Canada certainly is taking the lead in that respect. So a couple of acknowledgements, in particular, the attributes of the Global Engineer Project. This is a colleague of mine, Dr. Hans Hoyer, who is the Secretary General of IFES, International Federation of Engineering Societies, and he's also the Executive Secretary of the Global Engineering Dean's Council. And I've got a link there for you, which is the CSUN conference. I come from California State University at Northridge, as you heard in my introduction. And CSUN, now for the last 30 years, has been hosting this international conference on disabilities. So the conference attracts people with visual disabilities, hearing disabilities, cognitive disabilities from a variety of places around the world. And the attractive part of this conference is that you have the practitioners working with the end users to design products, to improve the products, to make the quality of life better. So this past year was our 30th, and truly remarkable. Some of you, I'm going to date myself very quickly here. Jerry Jewell, if that rings a bell, from Facts of Life. So Jerry Jewell was one of the keynote acts for us, as was Chris Fonseca, who's, again, is a very well-known comedian. But all of these people have, Jerry has CP, and so she came out there and she had the audience in splits, just talking about how she deals with her condition and what she's done and so on and so forth. And then towards the close of the evening, we had this young gentleman who started playing American Pie, if you know that song. And the beauty is that he does not have any arms, right? He plays the guitar with his toes. And you wouldn't, I mean, if you just heard the song, you would think this is a professional. He is. He plays in a band. But that's the beauty of humanitarian technology to me, because that brings it home that somebody is really helping individuals like that lead the quality of life that they desire, empowers them so that they can move on. Right? So if you're interested, the conference will take place next year. It will be in March in San Diego, sunny San Diego. So check it out, csun.edu/COG. Okay, very good. So the question, my topic was globalization and engineering, right? So what do we mean by globalization? As it turns out, everybody talks about globalization because we see elements of this all around us. We see products that we buy online, we buy tickets to a play, we buy tickets to a movie, and sometimes we're far away, and yet we're able to accomplish all of these things with the aid of technology. Yet when you talk to industry, and I know there was a fair show of hands right here from colleagues, industry would tell you that the graduates are coming out many times with a disconnect between what is expected of them in industry and what the educational systems are preparing them for. So how do we go about ensuring that our graduates are prepared to meet these challenges? And herein I think we need to think about what we do as engineers. So as engineers, design comes to mind, building something comes to mind, testing something comes to mind, breaking something, right, occasionally. But at the end of the day, we're making these products and processes to help the people around us. And that really should be the driving force. That really should be the motivator when it comes to engineering. Now, having said that, how do we go about ensuring that no matter what sort of engineer you are, you have that end user perspective in mind? Whether you're an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, you let the audience, in this case the end user, drive the solution. And IEEE certainly has been doing a remarkable job, and I'll share a few programs with you today in terms of the Educational Activities Board, particularly the Ethics in IEEE program. I think is a wonderful program. It's now a signature program of the IEEE Foundation. That's the engineering projects in community service. And this is something that we've all seen, the exponential pace of change, right? So we contend with technologies that are changing very, very rapidly before our eyes. And so this particular chart shows various technologies and the number of years it took a segment of the United States population, in this case 25%, to adopt it. What you notice again is that it's sort of exponentially increasing. So it took 55 years for a quarter of the US population to look at automobile technology. And Mr. Ford very famously said back then, speaking of innovation, everybody can have a Ford in any color they want as long as it's black, right? And we've changed that remarkably. In November, I was at the Higher Ed Maker Summit at the University of Arizona. And there's a company called In Motors. And In Motors makes a 3D printed car. And when you talk to the designers of In Motors, they would tell you that if you're a connoisseur and you want to create a car that doesn't exist anymore, they can actually 3D print it for you. So that's the market that they're after. So it's remarkable what the technologies can do for us today. But now we're looking at it as an enabling technology, we're looking at it as a humanitarian technology, and that's where our focus is as engineering. So toys are good. You know, as engineers, we all love to play with various toys and technologies. But at the end of the day, how are we using these technologies to help people? Now, the grand challenges are ones that we can use as drivers. And the grand challenges are very, very broad. You know, clearly, Our supply of energy is not unlimited. The environment is in danger. We need to be very, very cognizant of the future generations that come after us about being careful stewards of the environment. We need to think about climate change. A lot of the issues that we're facing in California, despite the very, very stringent, tough air quality standards that we have, are a result of some decisions that are being made over the past few decades. So the problem, again, if you go back to the original slide, they're very vulnerable to small changes, but they take a long time to occur. You know, we make a change, and we don't really see the effect of that for generations in some cases. So it's very important to be cognizant, I think, as engineers, as citizens of the world, that we take this holistic view of what society is and how we're going to serve society. Clean water and food. Look at 2/3 of the world's population and the access to clean water and food. So these are important challenges. Healthcare, for sure, transportation, but the key to all of this, I believe, is education. Because when you have a system of education that seeks to unlock the potential of the individuals that we seek to serve, then all of these challenges can be addressed, perhaps in a holistic way. Okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the attributes of a global engineer project right here, so you understand some of the elements that are going to underplay the examples that I'll share with you in a moment. So first, we want to look at the global context for engineering work, competence frameworks, curricular considerations, how is industry going to be involved, and then various attributes and their linkages to related activities. Again, this is some work that I'm summarizing to you of the Global Engineering Dean's Council that has been very active in this endeavor for the past many, many years. So look at the global context for engineering work. We need engineers. I mean, if you talk to any academic, and I'm one of them, you'd say we need engineers who are competitive, right? And they can collaborate in a global fashion. What are the skill sets that it takes for someone to be successful in this kind of a competitive yet collaborative environment? Clearly, if you're designing products to help people, you need to understand who those people are. You need to understand their culture. You need to understand their cultural sensitivities. And this is interesting. The new realities of global innovation, increasing distance between technology innovators and their markets. So right close to Northridge, where I live, and there's a small city called Chatsworth, and a company there called ResMed. Okay, anybody know ResMed? Heard about ResMed? So ResMed is a company that makes products for people with sleep apnea. So basically, they create this product. It looks like a medieval mask to me, but they put it on, and I guess it keeps the person breathing appropriately when they're sleeping. Now, at the heart of this product is a brushless DC motor, right? And it's very, very noise-free. It's very quiet. The winding for this motor is done in Sydney, Australia. Sydney, Australia. The product is assembled in Chatsworth, and it's sold to consumers all over the world. So consider that whole triangle. Sydney to Northridge to a consumer anywhere in the world. So you go online to ResMed and say, I need this product, and you get the product delivered to your doorstep. Right? So there's increasing distances there, but it takes a team. It really takes a team to understand the needs of the consumer. It takes a team to understand what it goes into that design, and then how you're going to deliver that. So these are some of the implications of the global context of our work. Competence frameworks. So engineering education is comprised, again, of technical and professional skills, and clearly I think we want to add global to that. The challenge here is that nobody quite knows what these global skills are. You know, if I talk to you in Canada, you would tell me these are very important to me. If I talk to you in the United States, you'd say these are the important global skills. And we're trying to come to some kind of common understanding and consensus on what these global skills are. So let's look at a few of those. So the academic preparation is important, and there is a broad agreement that some of the effects of globalization are important, yet we still need to understand that we have to better prepare our engineers when they come out, right? Because it's not just about the technology, it's how they're using these technologies to serve the people around them. Take a look at accreditation. In the United States and globally now with ABET accreditation, the criteria are looking at designing products that meet a variety of standards, that satisfy economic constraints, that satisfy aesthetic constraints, social constraints, etc. Again, these are all pointing to the importance of globalization, because you're no longer simply designing a product that is going to have a limited exposure or a limited lifetime. You need to be thinking about a sustainable product that serves the people that you're designing it for and that can be used and stewarded responsibly over time. So what kind of skills are needed? Besides your technical skills, you need communication skills, you need leadership skills, you need the ability to work in teams, multidisciplinary teams, all of these things. Right? Some references there for you as well, and I'll share these slides with you so you can feel free to check them out later. So what are the curricular considerations? Systems thinking, teamwork, communications, and having the students think about the impact that their product is going to make globally. I think these are important. Additionally, I think our students need to be well versed in multiple languages. Living as you do in Ottawa, I imagine many people here are bilingual, if not multilingual. Right? And that's not true in a lot of parts of the world. I mean, people just speak the language that is common in that region. Yet if you're designing these products for people that live all over the world, I think it helps to understand the culture. Right? And we had a very interesting project that we're doing at the moment at my university related to teaching Java programming. Right? This is our introductory programming class. And we noticed a high failure rate because it was the same old examples and people were just getting tired of it. And then Nani Nalpetian, who's the faculty member teaching that course, she hit upon a brilliant idea, and it really happened, it was happenstance. She was sitting in a faculty senate meeting next to the chair of the music department, Rick Alviso. And they were both talking, and they said, you know, there's a lot of parallels between music and coding. What if we were to teach coding using music? Okay, so hence started this whole conversation. Now we have a grant from the Helmsley Trust. It's called TIDES, Teaching to Inverse Diversity in the STEM Disciplines. And basically what it does is the kids are creating music. So they're composing music, and they're not just composing any music, they're composing music that depends upon their background. So you get hip hop, you get salsa, you get reggae, you get all kinds of different styles. But in the process of doing that, they're seeing the parallels to structured programming. One data point, we've just done this for a year. The retention rate in the class has gone to 78% in just 1 year. And when you walk into the class, sometimes you wonder, because as an academic, you don't want to give up control, and this looks like pandemonium, literally. It's not an orchestra, there's all kinds of sounds, and people are learning. And that, I think, is a beauty. So I think language expectations, communication skills, multiculturalism, these are all things that we need to aspire for, that we need to push forward. Global education needs to be integrated into the curriculum. This is important because it can't just be an add-on. We tend to think in blocks and say, well, here's math, here's physics, here's engineering, and oh, here's global education. No, not quite. I think global education needs to be from concept, and it has to be a lifelong endeavor for you. And more importantly, if you are part of a program, if you ignore globalization, I think it'll soon become irrelevant, right? I mean, this is a really important point to drive home, and I'll come back to this at the end of my presentation after I go through some of the examples that I'm going to share with you. So what's the role of industry? And a couple of questions here. Are we appropriately realistic for an increasingly global economy? Are we doing the right things? Do we meet the needs, current needs of employers? And to what extent should we have this bilateral feedback? I think that's important because we need to be talking to them if we expect change. We do need feedback, and we can get it in a number of ways, both from the graduates that we put out into the real world, as well as industry. And again, the fourth bullet is something that you've all heard from time to time. They tell you that, no, your students need to know communications, teamwork, multidisciplinary skills, etc. And we can't just do that by wishing that were true. I think we need to create opportunities for students to engage in these kinds of activities. Then you have a chance of succeeding. And then finally, involve the industry in influencing the curriculum. So actually go to them for projects, or go to the end user for projects. This is where EPICS plays a role. This is where perhaps programs like the low-cost exhibits that I'll talk about, the TISP, the Teacher in Service program, really making it hands-on, making it relevant, making it more meaningful for the individuals that are affected. So what are some of the attributes? There's various publications, and I know many of you here are probably familiar with these. There's the Bologna process, there's ABET, Lumina Foundation, Grand Challenges, Engineer of 2020, etc. And all of these are available for you to look at. And many of them provide you linkages on curriculum that people have developed, metrics that they've developed, rubrics that they've developed, to evaluate what globalization is. And here are some of the high impact practices. Doing undergraduate research, doing a study abroad program, actually having students connect with other audiences. A capstone senior design course that is practical, that's relevant, that takes into account the needs of the society. Job shadowing. We started a program in California called the Career Pathways Trust. And the Career Pathways Trust program connects students from 9th through 12th grade into the careers that they want to go into. So, living as I do in Los Angeles, the entertainment industry is very big. So people are interested in fashion, they're interested in IT, but from an entertainment industry standpoint. So there is the digital arts, there's manufacturing, but all of these fields leading to the entertainment industry. And so if you're a student in a high school or a middle school for that matter, you're thinking about how these careers are evolving and you're beginning to prepare yourself to tackle these challenges as you go forward. So some ideas. So this was from the National Academy of Engineering called Changing the Conversation. And I don't know how many of you have seen this, but I like this for a number of reasons, because it talks to me about the power of engineering, and it really talks to me about this globalization concept that we've been talking about for the last few minutes. So it says, no profession unleashes the spirit of innovation like engineering. From research to real-world applications, engineers constantly discover how to improve our lives. So I've highlighted certain words there, because I think these are words that are very, very important to us, no matter what part of this equation we're at, whether you're a student, an industry person, an academic, because we're talking about professions that have a direct and positive impact in people's everyday lives. That's what globalization means to me, right? And how do we go about ensuring that people carry this message, this mission, as they move forward, from being a student to their careers throughout their lives? How are they going to serve society? So this is an important aspect. Give you an example here. So, Not Impossible LLC. Anybody heard about Not Impossible? Anyone? Not Impossible. Okay. So Not Impossible is a small nonprofit that's based out of Santa Monica, California, which is very close to where I live. And a few years ago, they had a graffiti artist by the name of Temp One. He was all of 21 years old. And Temp One was afflicted with Lou Gehrig's disease. So as a result, all he could do was to blink his eyes. That's all he could do. And he felt trapped in his body. I mean, he just didn't know how he could survive, because that painting was his life. This guy was painting murals, beautiful murals. So Mick Eveling, who's the CEO of Not Impossible, put together a team, and you can see the technology there. This is from Time Magazine here, and it's actually a TED Talk as well. Off-the-shelf technology, nothing that is earth-shattering, but things that you can readily buy, connected together, which allows Temp One to lie on his hospital bed or at his home, blink his eyes and paint. Okay. And when you listen to the video, it's really moving, because Temp One says, "You gave my life back to me. You gave my life back to me." Because that was his passion. That was his passion, that was his calling. And what we did here with technology really changed his life. Here's another example. Project Daniel. Anybody heard about Project Daniel? So Daniel is a 14-year-old boy from northeastern Sudan, and he's a farmer, and he was just doing the family work. He was just collecting firewood, accidentally happened to pick up a piece of unexploded ammunition, lost his limbs as a result. And he felt so despondent that he didn't want to live anymore, because he said, "I'm the breadwinner for my family, I can't even pick up firewood anymore. What is the purpose of my life?" I mean, that was the level of his despondency. What Mick did was remarkable. 3D printing company in Redwood, neuroscientists from MIT, robotic scientists from South Africa, and a doctor put together. They flew to Sudan, this was a year and a half ago, November, and they set up 3D printers there to print prosthetic limbs that they attached to Daniel. And to hear Daniel say it, he says, "For the first time now, I'm able to feed myself without somebody having to do that. Now I can go out and do it." But they did something more. They did something more. So this was this bombed out hospital building in Sudan, where they set up these printers and helped the farmers create 3D printed prosthetic limbs for any child that had lost his or her limb. That to me is remarkable. I mean, these people don't have an education, let alone a technical education, right? But they're looking at the impact. They're looking at how they can serve the community, and this is huge. And this is something that we can continue, that we can provide, because now we have the nonprofits, now we have the IEEEs, and you have the various societies coming in saying, yes, we can do this, you know, we're here, there's technical people around you who care. Right? That really is the story. Yeah. Close it at home, we have the Maker Faire initiative. This was last June. That's President Obama, and that's his likeness, by the way. That's a 3D printed pancake, I think, of the president. And Lindsay Lawler, the gentleman on the right, created this big giraffe, which is actually available in San Diego. If you come to the conference in San Diego, you can take rides on the giraffe. And it's a fun way to do things, but the giraffe responds to tactile input. So if you go pet it, you know, it kind of reacts to that like a real animal would, and so forth. But again, examples of how at play, at work, and life, we're using technologies to connect. Here's another one. Since we have a lot of engineers in the audience, what do you reckon that block is out there? Anybody? A city, okay. Yeah. One choice. Anybody? I'll take another one.
Nanophotonics?
Nanophotonics, okay, I'll take that. All right. How about a third one? Anybody? Don't be shy.
On the scanner, kind of.
How about if I told you it is a digitized version of a sound wave? A digitized version of a sound wave.
Yeah.
It actually is a 39-second clip from President Obama's State of the Union address last year. And that 3D printer that you see behind you, Kyle Zazzaro is a French artist, and he actually took that 3D printer. It took him 8 months to create that sculpture. And it's a traveling exhibit. It's part of the White House right now. And if you were to go to the White House and you walk past it, a laser beam goes over it, and it shows you where the president flexes his voice, lowers his voice, raises his voice, and so on. Gives you a whole new way to analyze rhetoric, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine going back to the Gettysburg Address and listening to President Lincoln, right? And having a 3D sculpture to go with it. President Obama was actually joking about this during the Maker Faire initiation, because he said, I think I went too long with that speech. And he's referring to that. But the point is, again, we have all of these examples around us about how technology is making a difference, how it's making us smile, how it's making life better for many, many of us. Yet, this is what we often see, right? Oops, here I am. I'd like to work on some things, and what happened? So this is something that we have to overcome. And it's not the curriculum, it's not the content, it really is the interaction between the two, right? Because people need to be engaged in what they're doing. And so as educators, as students, as academics, how are we going to get everyone engaged in their learning, be passionate about what they want to do? Okay. So I'll give you a few examples from our work. So this is a brain control interface for a wheelchair. So there is an annual competition at the University of Michigan. It's called the Intelligent Ground Vehicle Competition. In fact, I think it's taking place this coming weekend. And there's universities from all over the world, perhaps some from Canada as well. It's sponsored by the Autonomous Unmanned Vehicle Society, AUVSI. So I've been doing this for many, many years. And it's a robotic competition. If you're familiar with the DARPA Grand Challenge, it's a robot that has to navigate a football-sized field, and it has to go around and hit various waypoints and so forth. So a number of these students that you see in the picture were part of these teams that were competing, and eventually they did well. Actually, they won the competition a couple of years in a row. But they were not satisfied with that. They were using all these technologies. They were using laser rangefinders, they were using GPS systems,